Hi everyone, I'm Barbara Beck and I'd like to welcome you to Current. The ladies and I have a wonderful program lined up for you today as we look for ways to be refreshed, renewed, and empowered. Well, today we're going to be talking about those in our society who have special needs, like Down syndrome, but they don't see this as a hindrance. We shouldn't see this as a hindrance. Rather, it's an opportunity and a challenge to break the barriers and even become entrepreneurs of all things. Why shouldn't we all live extraordinary lives of purpose when we know that God has a plan for everyone? Big dreams and setting the bar high are important components for successful, abundant lives in Christ. And why not Down syndrome children and adults? Well, I read recently about the Down Syndrome Association in Central Florida, which includes encouraging individuals to go through a boot camp called the Entrepreneur Academy, which helps those who have Down syndrome learn how to start their own micro enterprises and create viable businesses. Did you know, and I just learned this, that only 17% of adults with Down syndrome are employed? But it's not because of their ability to work. Rather, employers are often not informed about the potential that these precious individuals have. We've all probably met someone, or you might even have a child with Down syndrome, and you know the blessings that come with those with special needs. Well, let's see what the Current ladies have to say about their experiences with people they might have known or know now with Down syndrome. Welcome, ladies. So glad to have you. Well, we have a new face on the panel today, Lee Swanson.
Hi.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, we just knew you would have a lot to add.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'll try.
No pressure. Yeah, no pressure at all. But what about you, Lee? I know as a pastor's wife, you probably run into all kinds of different people. Are children or adults with special needs, have they run across your path any?
Of course, yeah. In the life of the church, when you're a pastor's wife, our churches over the years have had people in them, children with Down syndrome and special needs. And I can tell you the blessing that it is to have people in your community that are different from you and that might have unique and special challenges. And it is, it's a way that the Lord teaches us things that we wouldn't learn otherwise when we have the privilege of being around children who have special needs.
Well, it is a joy, and oftentimes those parents of children with special needs will tell you that we're missing out if we don't have a child with special needs. Anybody else have that experience?
Well, you know, I do a lot of stuff with Nathaniel's Hope, and I know we all do a lot of stuff, and boy, will you get around those kids, and I say all year, it's the greatest thing I do. I get around those kids, and they are so full of life, so full of pure love. And they don't miss out on the little things of life that bring so much joy. I really think we can learn so much from those children. So I understand why those parents say, you're the one missing out, because we learn so much from them.
It's almost like they've never been corrupted by the world. You know, they don't get the ugliness sometimes. I mean, I think it's just different. There is such joy. A good friend of mine has her middle son has Down syndrome, and he has always got a smile on his face, and he always brings a smile to so many other people's faces. And then there's another kid who my son knows pretty well. It's in his Boy Scout troop, and he said, "Mom, David's always laughing. Everything is fun. Everything about life is fun." And it's like somehow at 9 or 10, children start to lose their innocence, and it's like these kids stay at 9 or 10. You know, they never kind of wake up to the world, the ugliness sometimes of the world. I don't know.
You know, we've talked some about Charlie. You're adorable, my 11-year-old son, and he is in public school, and I think one of the things that I love the most about the school that he goes to is that they integrate kids into certain periods of the classes. And so not just Down syndrome, but any kind of child with special needs comes into their classrooms for different periods. And last year, there was a sweet little boy named Tommy who came in for a couple periods in every one of Charlie's classes. And for me, when I was volunteering in the class, I saw the joy that Tommy brought to the class with his exuberance and his just excitement for life. But what was really neat was seeing how the other children responded to Tommy, and it brought out a just very sensitive side of the students. And what I loved seeing was that they all rallied around Tommy. Tommy won. At the end of the year, the teacher gave out awards for every kid. And whatever they were. One was like best reader. One was, I don't know what they were. She was making up stuff. But Tommy got the last award. And Tommy's eyes, I don't remember what the award was. Tommy's eyes got this big. All the kids leapt up and started clapping for Tommy. And those are the kinds of things that I want Charlie to leave school remembering, how we treat other people. And I think that will be a memory for Charlie for the rest of his life. And I'm just grateful that the school system does that, because we can all learn so much from each other.
Well, don't you love going to restaurants and that they have people that are serving you that maybe have Down syndrome and stuff like that? They're so, like we keep saying, they're so full of joy. I think that's the one thing that you recognize about them. But they have a great work ethic. I mean, they're always coming up saying, hey, can I get you anything else? And they're self-confidence. I mean, they're confident.
So why do you suppose we place such limitations on those people in our society? Because that statistic really kind of blew me away. 17%? So what are they doing? You know, are they at home with a parent? Are they in a special nursing kind of home facility? You know, we do this to these people. We place the limitations on them as employers,
Well, I
right?
think as society, we place a lot of emphasis on physical appearance. On
we do.
The perceived intelligence that we think about someone else based on the way they appear. And I think also we are impatient. And we move at such a rapid pace, and we're self-centered. So we move at a pace that we're not thinking about other people. We're not thinking about the gifts that they can bring. And if they're not moving at a pace that we want to move at and get everything done, then we oftentimes discard portions of society that we don't think are up to.
And they have value. They have great value. I met this precious little girl who does artwork, and I was just looking at some of her things, thinking, I mean, she could do greeting cards out of these. She could do. I mean, she has an incredible talent, and she's a Down syndrome little girl. And I just thought, we need to look for ways to make sure that we are recognizing the value in these children who are fearfully and wonderfully made. And that begs the question.
You know what I think? I think a lot of times, yes, society, we may not look for opportunities to hire them and include them. But I think even as a parent, I think if you are the parent, because I've known people that have had babies that had Down syndrome. And I think as a parent of a child with any special needs, I think you become fearful of how they're going to be accepted in society, and will they have the same opportunities? Because you hear people say that a lot. They don't have the same opportunities that everybody else has. One of the things that I was taught by my grandparents was, with my children, I look for their gifting. And it's almost as though we think that because these children have special needs that they don't have gifts. And God created everybody with a gift, even a special needs child. And so for a parent to be able to identify what that gift is, even if it's just a beautiful smile, not to downgrade their abilities, because I think that they can excel just like everybody else, but to have the opportunity to be somewhere so they can just smile and greet people. Something as simple as that opens up the door and the possibility for us as a society to be able to see them as valuable and viable. And so I'm excited about the idea that schools are integrating those students into the classrooms, because now we are normalizing
How about this Entrepreneurs
That's
Academy?
amazing.
I can't wait to hear more
Well,
about that.
it is just the coolest thing, because they are identifying these little girls and boys, and I mean they're young men and women. They're not children that do have these strengths. One makes jewelry. Somebody else is doing the artwork. They do all kinds of different businesses. That what we need to be doing, and viewers, I hope that you're hearing this as well, is that when we have an opportunity to support these people financially, we need to do that. I need to go online and I need to buy these greeting cards.
Yeah,
I need to buy the jewelry for my grandchildren, and just to be aware, Lee, like you're talking about, that there are things out there.
We do it for people in Africa, right? We want to support all these things, and so I think it's really important that we do it here.
And I think it's important that we bring it out, because I think if we know it, then shame on us if we don't get involved and support it. Because, but I am glad that you brought that up, because I think it's important for us as parents. we've got to be teaching our children not to act funny around these kids or not. I mean, it starts with us. So many of the parents, I hate to say it, we are letting down what our jobs are as men and women, as straight. We are to teach the kids, hey, they're special, look for their good. Because I like when you said that we have a society now that if you don't look a certain way, you are discredited in a way. And that starts with us changing our mindset to see people as valuable, because we all have got to have a purpose to feel valuable in life. And God doesn't make mistakes. We wouldn't be here if there wasn't a purpose for us.
Do you all remember when everybody here has had babies, and when you were pregnant, and you had an opportunity. I mean, even back in my day, I had an opportunity to take certain tests to determine if my baby had any abnormalities. This one did not, that I know of, right? I don't think so.
We're still questioning.
So far, so good. But I remember at one point saying, don't run any more tests, because I don't really want to, number one, I don't want to know. And number two, if there is a problem, okay, God made her, He formed her in my womb, and she's going to live no matter what. So do you remember, did you all have those same tests? Did you have that same
I didn't
thinking?
do the test because my last child came at 42, so I was like everything. And I did the same thing. I just said, you know what, I don't want those tests. It puts the baby at risk. And what is it going to do to change anything? I'm going to take exactly what God gives me. And no offense, you can have a perfectly normal baby and have struggles in life.
Totally.
And sometimes I think it can be in more ways. So I think that it's back to what you said, and I'm so glad she said it. We want to view something. I do a song called Broken into Beautiful, and I talk about it. I'm not singing, but no, I love that song because the world wants to label us. You're good, you're bad. You remember that old book that was, I can't remember who it was, but they put stars and circles on some people. You're good, so you get a star today. You're not, so you get a circle. And Puccinella, nothing stayed on them. They'd all fell off because they went to the maker, who told them you're fearfully and wonderfully made. So it didn't matter the good, it didn't matter the bad. Nothing stuck because they saw themselves as Christ saw them. And I get chills even saying that, because that's the message we all need to hear. It doesn't matter if you're Down syndrome, it doesn't matter what the world wants to put on you. Don't accept it. You are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Well, and the message we need to be speaking into our children, special needs or not, that they are fearfully and wonderfully made and that they're special. I think the more we hear that we're special, the more we believe that we're special. You all know the story in the Bible. It's in John 9, when Jesus walks past the man who is blind, and some of the people ask him, they said, Jesus, who is it that sinned to make this man blind? Was it his parents or was it the man? And Jesus says, neither the man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of God may be revealed in his life.
I love that.
And I love that because the work of God can be revealed in all of our lives. And when we see people with challenges or if we're struggling with something, I would love to make a shift and say, how can I use this as an opportunity to show God in the midst of this season?
I recently heard a man speak who has a severely disabled daughter, and he talked about how she was made on purpose and for a purpose.
That's good.
And I thought that was such a beautiful reminder that even with her disabilities, that this was not a mistake, that the God who, he even said, the God who had knit my other children in my wife's womb also knitted this child in her womb in the exact way that his sovereign hand desired. And so she is not a mistake. Nothing about her is a mistake, but that she was designed on purpose for a special purpose. And it might be different from, other children's purposes, but that they absolutely have
And I don't think we have to know what that
Yeah.
purpose is. A lot of times, I'm sure there's some parents out there with special needs children today. They're like, maybe struggling. It might be a very, very hard existence for them with the challenges and thinking about having someone in their home maybe forever. No empty nest syndrome. I have a friend who has a brother who is in his 50s, and those parents are not going to be around forever. They don't want to put him in a group home, and so it is difficult. And to continue to remember that they have purpose, and the purpose might not be revealed in this life. But talk about just for a minute Marie and Tim Cook with their son Nathaniel, because that purpose was revealed in this lifetime.
And I love their story because they took what the world would have said, it's going to just destroy you. And as their little child who they never could feed him regular food, he never could breathe without an oxygen tank.
24-hour-a-day care.
24-hour-a-day care, passes away in her arms. But instead of saying, I'm going to live in my self-pity of, oh, whoa, what has God done for me? She says, how can God be glorified through this? And other people who are going to, and now I can't even tell you how many different states they are in that they've started that buddy break.
Right.
It's such a powerful
It's
program.
all over the United States.
It's all
now.
over because they chose to take what could have been awful and chose to allow God to get the glory, what you just read through it. And you know, I think of that man, I was trying to look at, is it Nick Vaiku or whatever?
Vujicic.
Vujicic,
Yes.
thank you. Because I love his story, born with no arms,
Right.
no legs.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell you, he was at that man's event, and my son come home with a fight inside of him that said, you know, if that man can get up every day and go, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, I'm going to make something out of my life. It's all about how we view things. And I was reading this thing the other day about this lady who was doing this video of all the people who's been in war, and she went in to be with this guy who had lost his arm, and he was so upbeat, and she's like, how are you staying so upbeat? And his thing was, well, because it wasn't my right arm, and he writes with his right arm, so he's real positive. She didn't even know when he got up to leave that he had no legs also. Because he chose, the power is up here. As a man thinketh, so is he. We're either going to take what life brings us and either let it destroy us, or we're going to believe God's word. We're going to stand on his promises that all things work together for good. And I was telling a friend last night, all, you know what all means in Hebrew? All. You know, all is all. Right. The good, the bad, the ugly, the whatever.
I didn't know you knew Hebrew. I really did.
I speak in a lot of languages. I just can't interpret it. But you know, it's just standing, and you have to. How do we make it through the day if we don't stand on God's promises?
Right.
It is our hope.
Well, let's get real practical and say how we as moms and grandmoms, we have a couple of grandmoms up here, how can we teach our children to really espouse the beliefs that we're talking about today? How can we incorporate value in them, having them see value in some of these special needs children, besides what's happened with Charlie, our adorable? What are some other things that you're teaching at home that are tangible?
Well, for starters, I think the earlier the kids are exposed to people that are not like them, and it doesn't matter whether it's Down syndrome or somebody from a different ethnic group, the better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because then they grow up. Bible says train up a child in the way he should go. When you wait until they're older and they didn't have that as young children, it just becomes difficult to get them to understand that everybody that's created, no matter what they look like, no matter what their abilities are, that they are fearfully and wonderfully made by God, and that they're here for a purpose. And so that's my thing, is just being able to expose my children. We did that with our kids, and
So
we
where
try
do
to
you,
do that
where
with
do
our
you do, where do you
grandchildren.
go? How do you expose your children to different ethnicities and different people with special needs?
Well, everywhere we go.
Okay.
Nowadays, Barbara, people aren't as secluded as they were before.
That's true. They were
and so
institutionalized.
just getting outside of my regular circle. And there was a time when they weren't in the schools because the
that's
schools
true.
could not accommodate them.
Right.
Yeah.
But even as little kids in preschool, having them in classes with students that are not like them is very important. My boys have been at a school that has a very good mix of ethnic groups for a long time. But when they first went to the school, it was really difficult because the kids were older. And the children that were there weren't used to being around other people from other backgrounds and things like that. And so it took a while because they were older. So the earlier you expose children, the better.
One of our best friends' son, he doesn't have Down syndrome, but he has Asperger's. And so it's been really good for my son to kind of be his protector. They go to the same school, and so some of his other friends might say something, well, why does he do that? Why does he, he has a couple of little things where he'll do with his hand. And Chase has said, because that's how God made him, And so, but we've said to him, he is one of our best friends. You have to protect him. You are there. God put you there for a reason. And that's been really neat to see him walk that out. But that was only because they were our best friends, and he needed that. So.
And I love the idea that his response is that is how God made him. Because you know what? Labels cause us to look down at people.
Come on.
And so when, if he's saying to the other kids, oh, he has Down syndrome or he has Asperger's, all of a sudden the kids are going to look at him differently. They're going to look at him like, oh, something is wrong. I feel so sorry for you. I need to. And that's not what you want. Everybody wants to be treated as normal. And so I just think that's great. If we could remove some of the labels and just be, I mean, I don't have Down syndrome or Asperger's, but trust me, I have a problem.
We all know.
I'm trying to keep it covered.
I know we've got to wrap up, but something just came to me and that you said, and I think there's a real difference in belonging and fitting in. You know, kids these days, adults these days, we don't need to fit in, but we do need to feel like we belong. And I think that we can belong being very different from one another. And so that's a lesson that I want to focus on with my children, is the understanding of belonging and what that means to wrap people into a group or just a togetherness without having to be the same and not having to conform to a certain
Boy,
behavior.
You're just ringing so much in my heart, because my daughter, you know, it starts with us. It starts with us as parents of how we speak about them, how we talk about them. I mean, it's caught, not taught.
Right.
You know, they're watching us if we're saying, oh, look at that, you know, or if we look and go, look at that special person, what can we do to go make them feel special? And my daughter, I like how you said that about belonging, because she was talking about one of her friends the other day. She said, Mom, we want her to know, because she's trying to switch and be like us instead of being herself. And we're looking at her like, be yourself. We celebrate you. And I thought, it's that. You don't have to fit in to belong.
Right.
Be yourself. If we'll begin to celebrate ourselves and celebrate our children and celebrate others, won't our world be a better place? It starts with us.
Right. I just want to be sure that we give our children and grandchildren an opportunity to, if they're not around them at school or in different places of their lives, but the Russell home is a home for, and they call them atypical, which means not typical. It's not abnormal. It's not special needs. They say atypical, just not like everybody else.
Yeah.
But that is one of the coolest places to go. And I would encourage all of our viewers and all of us today, if we have children that are an age where they can go and visit and volunteer and just walk around and visit with them, like you're saying. Here's somebody that just needs a smile. Here's somebody that just needs you to touch their shoulder and let them know that you care about them. So that's just one of the places that has had a profound impact on me, and they do such an incredible job there. Scriptures. Let's talk about a couple of scriptures, because we are about ready to wrap it up. Anybody have anything?
Well, you've already talked about it, but Psalm 139:14, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well.
Love that. Love that. And I love that that Leanne, your son, knows to say that to somebody. I think that is so. You're made by God. You're you know, God made you. Anybody else have another verse?
Well, I've got Psalm 127, 3-5, that says, Behold, children are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. How blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them.
I've got Proverbs 3. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean to your own understanding. And I like that, because sometimes we want to ask why. But in all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. He'll tell you what you're to do.
Those are great.
I think it's Jeremiah, the first chapter, around verse 4 or 5. He said, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. And I called you to be a prophet to the nations. Which says that even before you get impregnated with this beautiful, wonderful gift,
God knew that.
God knew you, and he allowed it to happen for a purpose.
That's a great reminder. Thank you, ladies, for all of your contributions. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope that our viewers got encouraged by this, maybe inspired to get out there and to incorporate somebody who may not be exactly like you are, and help your children to understand that these people are special. They are fearfully and wonderfully made, and we have a lot more coming up, so stay with us. I hope you enjoyed our program today. Why do you suppose that so many of us who have been designated as normal in our society have a hard time embracing those with special needs? Are we fearful or just plain ill-informed, or another word for that would be ignorant? When I found out that only 17% of the adult population with Down syndrome are employed, I had to wonder why. Opportunities need to be available for all of us to reach our full potential and to live our lives with purpose, because after all, we were fearfully and wonderfully made by God. God has a plan for all of our lives, a purpose. I'm sure many of you with children have always tried to teach your young ones to reach for the stars, to dream big, to go for the gold. Why do we tend to place restrictions and limitations on those with special needs like Down syndrome? And here's another heartbreaking fact. Oftentimes, women who are pregnant can find out if their unborn baby is with an extra chromosome that defines the diagnosis of Down syndrome. Well, they can choose to terminate that pregnancy. Do you remember Tim Tebow's story? His parents made the decision to keep that pregnancy viable, even though doctors told the parents that the unborn baby would be abnormal and that Pam Tebow should abort her baby. Well, we all know how Tim Tebow turned out and how many people he has influenced for the Lord. And then what about Nick Vujicic? He's a man born without arms or legs. His ministry today is one that espouses no limitations, no boundaries, reach for the stars. He's an international superstar for God. Countless people have been inspired by his faith journey, and who knows how many souls have been saved as a result of his incredible testimony and faith journey. Scripture is very clear that God has created each of us in His image, fearfully and wonderfully made, and that includes those born with special needs. We might do well to keep that in mind. And that, dear friends, is our note of hope for today. Thanks so much for joining us, and God bless you.